So let's talk about ABSA. ABSA is just reporting before we came on air that he has given loan repayment to 53,000 customers worth 50 billion Kenya shillings. What the ABSA Kenya will report is anyone's guess moving forward. But let's talk about something much bigger and very profound within the East Africa space, and that's the 8th edition of East Africa's International Conference on Arbitration, which will take place in about 3 weeks from now, focusing on disruption within the arbitration practice. But how? But what are the how and the why, including the new thinking around arbitration in sub-Saharan Africa? Wairimu Karanja is a legal expert and director at Wairimu&Co, based in Nairobi. He's joining us tonight to chat to this. Good to see you, Wairimu. It's nice to have you on the show with me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Boasan. It's very good to be here, and I hope that you can hear me loud and clear.
Loud and clear, Asante Sana. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. So let's talk about arbitration issues within the context of sub-Saharan Africa's business environment. How important is arbitration? There are always disputes, by the way.
I would say that it is very, very important, which is why we are very keen on inviting everyone to the East Africa International Arbitration Conference. That is not only East Africa-wide, it is Africa-wide. I and 3 of my colleagues, who include Agnes Gitau from GBS Africa, Leyu Tameru from IARB Africa, and Elodie Dulac from King and Spalding, based in Singapore, and myself, Wairimu Karanja from W&Co or Wairimu&Co, started the East Africa International Arbitration Conference 7 years ago. And I would say it has grown to be a Pan-African leading arbitration conference on not just arbitration, but other alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. So it's been going on for 7 years, and we invite everyone to join our 8th edition, which is actually going to take place virtually. So we have seen the silver lining that has come out of this pandemic, because we are now disrupting the system and disrupting how we conference by hosting the first ever East Africa International Arbitration Conference virtually.
Okay, so but are there peculiarities of arbitration matters in Africa, Wairimu, when you talk about arbitration versus judicial process of settling dispute in business and contracts, for example? Look at Nigeria's and the PNID gas messy multi-billion dollar before one of the courts in London.
Yes, very much so. One of the things that I find that is not largely understood is that Africa is not a one-size-fits-all. It has 54 jurisdictions with, 5 main areas of law. We have Kenya and Nigeria as examples of the Anglophone system of law. We have the Francophone civil law system that is very prevalent under the Organization for Harmonization of Business Laws. We have Lusophone countries that are former Portuguese colonies, and we've got Roman Dutch law in South Africa and Southern African countries, and we have Islamic law in Egypt and other North African countries that form part of the Maghreb. And that is what people don't understand. When people talk about arbitration in Africa, they think it is one region with one, system of law. But I think Africa has its peculiarities, but what I find is that Africa is very attuned to global realities. So one of the major things that we have seen is the proliferation in arbitration centers in Africa that are at an international level. We have in Nigeria, the Lagos Court of International Arbitration. We have in Nairobi, the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. In Rwanda, the Kigali Center for International Arbitration. In Mauritius, we have the Mauritius Center of International Arbitration. And we also have in Egypt, CRCICA, which is the Cairo Regional Center for International Arbitration. We have new arbitration centers that are coming up. We have ICAMEC in Uganda, and we have the Tanzania Institute of Arbitrators and the Tanzania International Arbitration Center. Now, there have been huge lessons that have been learned from, like you said, the Nigerian P&I case. We have lessons that we have learned from the Kenyan international arbitration cases, from the World Duty-Free case that was leading case law when it came to corruption in investments, to the very recently won by the government of Kenya, Walam case that concerned investment in geothermal power, where the government of Kenya actually won with a landslide. This case where an investor was claiming billions of shillings, hundreds of millions of dollars in reparation, but the government was successful before an independent panel of international arbitrators under the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes regime or convention. So we see a growing importance in arbitration and enforcement of contracts in Africa, and we see governments recognizing that.
Wairimu, how important do you think arbitration would be as we try to enthrone the new AFCFTA across 54 countries, across different regional economies, customs region, tariffs, whatever, currencies, laws, and what have you? So do you think this is important to hold this conference and discuss this, because arbitration will come to the fore when we take off with the AFCFTA?
Yes, indeed. I think that it will be even more important as the continent starts looking inwards towards investment, cross-border investment across Africa. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area has a protocol on dispute settlement that I admit regards state-to-state disputes, and when investors have disputes that can be resolved as between states. But one thing that we have seen is huge cross-border investment from African countries to other African countries. We have got Nigerian companies that are coming to invest in Kenya, and we've got a lot of deals that have been signed. We've got Kenyan companies that have gone to invest in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Ethiopia. And this kind of cross-border investment is going to bring up a whole proliferation of disputes between not just foreign investors, traditionally foreign Western investors, but also foreign investors that are African or of African origin going into other countries. So the ACFTA recognizes that and has its protocol on dispute settlement. And we also see a lot of African countries recognizing the importance of international arbitration. Very recently, this year in 2020, Tanzania enacted its Arbitration Act of 2020 that is seen to be very, very progressive.
So in terms of the global practice of arbitration, what are we learning from the global and developed economies in 1 minute?
What we are seeing is that Africa is leading the charge, to be honest, in the growth in global investment and the growth in arbitration laws. Like I mentioned, we have Tanzania that has enacted its 2020 International Arbitration Act that encompasses international arbitration. What we have also seen is a lot of inward looking globally, whether it is by US-China trade wars or it is by Brexit. And we are also seeing Africa also seeing how it can look inwards and promote investment from other African countries through the ACFTA, through the AFCFTA. So we are going to be seeing a lot of interest in international arbitration as a mode of resolution of disputes, because people don't want to go to court for resolution of disputes because of how much time and backlog it takes in courts.
I agree with you. Thank you so much for speaking with us this evening. Wairimu, Karanja, Asante Sana.